Hello and welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you are listening to episode number 52, brought to you by Wicked Tree Gear. Today we're talking summer whitetail habitat tips with Jeff Sturgis, so stay tuned. Hello. What is going on, my whitetail friends? Happy Wednesday, hump day to you. You're almost there. It's the midpoint of the week. Friday's in sight. So we'll bring you a little bit of deer hunting podcast and deer hunting information to kind of help you get through and push through the hump day. Got a good show today. This is part 3 of our mini series with Jeff Sturgis, and today we're talking about summer whitetail habitat tips, updates, improvements. Super excited for this conversation. I think, once we hit that summer point, we all kind of start to get ramped up and ready for the season. I know just this past week, I was looking through a bunch of old photos from last summer on a few different glassing missions that I had, and was really getting excited to kind of have those nice, long, warm summer days. This time of year is just a little bit of a tease. It feels like the days are getting just a little longer. We recently had a little bit of abnormally warm weather, which kind of gets you excited for the summer season to get here. There's plenty of work to do between now and then, but I always kind of look forward to that time of year. And with that, with the summer habitat improvements, there's a couple things that probably come to mind, at least they do for me. Let's talk about a couple of our partners here and how they kind of fit in. So first, Wicked Tree Gear, obviously this time of year during the summer, probably want to start thinking about doing some trimming. If you're going to do any trimming and set some stands and so forth, I'm a guy who doesn't like to trim a lot, but I will a little bit. And Wicked Tree Gear is the longest lasting, fastest cutting, toughest trimming tree equipment that you've ever owned. You buy it once, you buy it for life. So if you're a guy who likes to do some trimming, even if you're packing in a long distance to trim up, on public land or what have you, they make some great ultralight tools in terms of their hand saws and their pull saws. So give Wicked Tree Gear a check at wickedtreegear.com and use the promo code TRUTH and get 20% discount on your Wicked purchase. Of course, summer is the Velvet Fest time, and what better way to capture Velvet Fest than with an Exodus trail camera? So head over to ExodusOutdoorGear.com and pick up one of their cameras. They have the Lift 2, and they also have the newest version Trek, which comes in a little bit lower of a price point. And if you use the promo code TRUTH on their website at checkout, you can save yourself $20. And then, of course, we have Tecumseh Seed. A lot of folks here, me included, do some of their planting in the spring. I'll do a little frost seeding in the spring. But this year, in particular, a lot of my planting is going to happen during the summer months in preparation for fall. And with that, you might want to pick up some Tecumseh Seed. So head over to Tecumseh.com, check out the product selector tool. It'll help you pick the right seed for whatever you want to put in the ground in terms of your food plots, and use the promo code TRUTH, of course, at checkout and save yourself 20% on Tecumseh Seed products. And with that, moving right along on a Wednesday, I hate that phrase. I hear it on ESPN all the time. It seems like that's like their stock saying. But with that, moving right along on a Wednesday, we'll go ahead and cut this intro short and get to the good stuff with Jeff Sturgis talking about summer whitetail habitat updates. All right, folks, we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, and we are joined by Jeff Sturgis of Whitetail Habitat Solutions for part 3 of the DIY Report Habitat mini-series. And today we are talking summer habitat planning. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, doing great, Clint. Love that you had me on this series, and great to be back.
Yeah, I can almost smell summer. Can you smell it?
I wish. Literally, you get these warm-ups here in the wintertime. I can't wait. Yeah, it's just around the corner.
Yeah, I know. It's like just talking about the summer habitat planning, I'm already getting velvet fever, unfortunately. We were having a little sidebar here before we started recording, talking about bucks for next year, and then I'm getting excited. So I'll try to maintain and restrain myself a little bit here, and we'll try to keep it strictly to habitat today. But so just to get started, we'll follow suit like we have with the first two episodes in the series, and let's talk about the type of habitat updates you typically do or prioritize or like to complete during the summer months.
During the summer months is really a maintenance time where, for one, I'm focusing on weed control with chemicals. especially on the small parcels that I'm working with, a lot of my clients have, you can't afford to let your weeds take over your food plots and certainly your switchgrass either. So you really have to have efficient plots and get the most for your acre and for your hard work and resources dollar. And so chemical control is really important. Now, another thing, too, I love checking up on my mock scrapes. And I will tell you, and sorry for the visual, but peeing in my mock scrapes, taking a garden rake, raking it up, making sure that vine, I use vines for all my mock scrapes now, natural grapevines, usually 3/4 of an inch to a 1 inch in diameter. I hang them about waist high over a flat surface. And so I'm checking those, just making sure the vine's okay and intact. They usually last 3 to 4 years. And then also I'm assessing my food plots. And a lot of times when I'm looking at client properties, we're really having some good hard discussions on how many does they have during the summer, if they're having a problem shooting their does, if they're creating a doe factory. And a lot of times that boils back to their summer food sources and summer habitat and what that's contributing to their fall hunting season. And sometimes it's problematic with the numbers they have, and there's some roots for that we look at during the summer too. And of course, making sure the water holes are full.
Right. So let me ask, so I want to, and this might be jumping the gun a little bit here into fall, but I don't think it is. So we know that, bucks are likely going to change their core area whenever it moves from summer to fall, and et cetera, is when they go hardhorn and the velvet comes off, and we all get excited, as I'm doing right now. But what is the critical portion for a property to have during the summer portion of the year? Is there a scenario where that you would recommend a property have great summer habitat, especially knowing if they're going to prioritize, knowing that bucks are likely going to change their core areas, and who you have on your property, June, July, and August may not be who's there in the fall. So how do you, I guess, prioritize summer habitat versus the other times of the year?
Summer habitat is a time where, again, just like the spring, deer have more than they need. They have several times more food than they need. Their food amounts are just incredible. And they have cover, and they're not hunter pressured, so they're scattered. You'll find that it seems like almost every ag field in an ag area has deer in it, some corner of it. They're just scattered. They're living high on the hog. And so what I'm really looking at is am I creating that situation where I'm inviting too many deer to the land? And so I'll give an example. I have 2 3/4 acres of food plots on one of my primary properties in southwest Wisconsin. I need that 2 3/4 acres of food plot to last all the way through January and into February, and later if it can, but at least through the hunting season. Now, if I have an army of does and fawns there with great summer habitat, great fall habitat, because great summer habitat for does is great fall habitat for does and bucks, meaning that bucks prefer high overstory and shade, good airflow, cool temperatures during the summertime, and they don't want to crash their velvet through the same cover that they'll happily live in during the fall. So completely different cover choices from summer to fall for bucks. But for does, they really want that same high stem count cover in the summer and the fall. So if you have great deer cover for the fall and you add great summer food sources, then you can be overrun with does and fawns. And so, but that's not the only problem. If you have those does and fawns there, when you want to have those fall food plots working for you, where you can mold and shape, attract a herd, protect bucks, young bucks, advance them to the next age class, really look at the principles of QDM, harvest does when needed, really have a defined property of movement during the fall, then you're creating a situation where the does take over during the summer, they stay into the fall, they stay there when your fall food plots are coming in, your late summer plantings, and your fall food plots really never get a chance to start up. And so I prefer to not have much going on with my food plots during the summertime other than maintenance for weed control. And so I'm looking for when those fall food plots start to come in, it doesn't concern me when I don't see a lot of deer in late August and early September, because as soon as the beans turn brown in the area, as soon as the alfalfa gets its last cutting, and those deer are going to shift to the fall patterns. And so those does and fawns that have been in adjacent ag land will shift over to my property. And so I go from seeing 3 or 4 deer out in those 2 3/4 acre food plots to 20-25 by the end of September. And at the same time, those food plots that I planted in early August have had a good 6 to 8 weeks to grow before that onslaught of does and and deer pressure in general comes on the property. So, for example, my brassica should be 20 to 24 inches by then. My winter peas, late planted soybeans, oats, I've gotten a good start. If I put a base layer of winter rye, a couple base layers, then that's had a good start too. And then those deer come in. So then I have enough food plot to last. But if I had those summer food plots there, then by my experience, I'd need about twice as many acres for the fall than I would have otherwise needed if I didn't have those summer food sources. And if you have too many deer on your property, too many does, the first thing you want to take a good hard look at is how are your summer food sources doing? Should you shrink them or should you eliminate them altogether? Because often that takes care of your doe problem pretty easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's interesting because I think that's something that I've run into on one of the properties is having to think about diversification. I know we touched on it a little bit in the spring one, but I think I need to reduce what I'm providing for the summer months because the farmer has Jeff, I want to say I probably have like 20 acres of alfalfa. It used to be corn, but he rotated it into alfalfa. And then I've got 5 acres of clover. And then I've got, now here's the kicker. It's like I'm doing the absolutely wrong thing here is I have about a 2.5 acre plot that is all nothing but fall food. And it gets hammered. Now there's great hunting around that one plot this year. I think there was $5 taken off that property. But running into a similar situation that you're kind of talking about where it's like I think I have too much of a good thing for the summer and it's hurting us a little bit and has in years past, maybe not so much this year, but in years past it's definitely has hurt us. But I want to go back to something you had mentioned about mock scrapes, just because I want to touch on that a little bit because I'm always curious, like how many, do you have a rule of thumb for how many mock scrapes you're putting out? Because I want to touch on another piece of I guess summertime management, which is inventorying your bucks, or inventorying your deer herd just in general. So how many mock scrapes is per acre, or per 10 acres or per 100 acres do you typically recommend? And are you using those as ways to inventory your buck herd?
I am using them. The mock scrapes, they're great. I have right around 1 to 2 per stand location. So on a 40-acre parcel, I have anywhere from 8 to 12 stand locations typically that I'll maintain, maybe even up to 13 or 14. But that means no more than 15 to 20 mock scrapes. And a lot of times if I'm putting 2 out in an area, it's by a tree stand, I'm using the mock scrapes to define those lines of movement for either rut cruising lines or between bedding and feeding or between bedding and bedding. And so I'm really using them for one to define traffic during the fall to help enhance traffic and movement and direct traffic. And then at the same time, a lot of my mock scrapes, and if you watch any of my videos with the Exodus trail camera on video, we're inventorying all our bucks over mock scrapes. And so I have some specific mock scrape locations. One in those 2 and 3/4 acres of plots, there's 3 food plots. I have 1 mock scrape in that entire food plot system in that valley, and I put a camera on it, and we can expect from mid-October to mid-November to get a picture of over 30 bucks. And we did this year, over 30 antler deer, and all the bucks that would come into those food plots are going to get their picture taken there. Now, if I would have 10 mock scrapes out there or 20, pretty hard to inventory your bucks when they have choices of 20 mock scrapes to go to. So you're better off having that one, no different than having 8 water holes on a 40-acre parcel. You can get away with 1 to 3, maybe 4 at the most in a big hilly country, 400-foot elevation where you have some on the top, some on the bottom. But 1 to 3 is more of the size if you don't have any other water sources. And just like mock scrapes, when you start adding too many on the property, the power of 1 is greatly diluted by the number that you're adding over what you really need. So, that the great time, and that kind of leads into even just a census for bucks. Late summer is a horrible time. Get into August, September, some of the scientific models to inventory your buck herd, because if you're doing a great job with your habitat and your habitat management and your herd management, those mature bucks really shouldn't be there yet. Whereas October to November, mid-November, that's the best time to really look at your actual influenceable herd, where you can actually get a census of your bucks and your overall deer herd and really know how your efforts for your hunting pressure management, and then your habitat management is actually really doing.
Yeah, I think I think one of the things that I got most excited about this past year was with the new property, where it's, there was a handful of decent young and up and comers, as I like to call them, that were showing up in the summer, and they actually stayed around for the entire year. But the two that I really wanted to see, I hadn't seen all summer, and then all of a sudden, as soon as the script flipped and it was time to change core areas, all of a sudden the two guys that I was hoping would be on the property, because I knew nothing about it, showed up. And I was super excited about it, because I was like, it's already it's already working out the way it should work out, and I haven't done anything to it yet. So now I know that, I don't need to make a complete overhaul. I just need to make some enhancements to this place. Which is nice.
One of the cool things about the summertime that I enjoy doing with the kids, and it's great to go out and go for a drive in the evening and check out where these mature bucks are. And with the benefit of the ag fields and a lot of winding back roads, it's pretty easy to find where those mature bucks are living that you see on your property during the fall. And I would say in my area, and this is typical of a lot of areas, that those mature bucks in their summer range are typically about a mile to a mile and a half from where they'll be in their fall range. And so those people are watching them all summer long somewhere else, and they wonder where they go. They just think they go nocturnal, when really their fall range is typically a mile away or more. And so really cool to actually see where they're living in the summer, assess that summer habitat of what those mature bucks need at that time, and then figure out where they are in the fall, why they were killed in a certain place. And if you don't have them on your property and you see lands that are consistently attracting those fall bucks, what is their habitat type? What kind of food are they offering? And you can really learn a lot just by watching the habitat and parcels in the neighborhood, just simply driving around here in the summertime.
Right. So with your final kind of preparations for getting ready for hunting season here in the summer season, what time of year do you really kind of say, that you shut it down and say, all right, we're getting out of the timber from here on out? This is kind of a no fly zone to a degree. Like when do you hang your last stand and you're like, all right, we're letting this thing set until the party starts?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm always, it seems like I do work on right around, I'll visit 60 clients a year. And of course, with all the other whitetail activities I do full time, it seems like my properties suffer the most, and I'm always racing to get things done at the end. Now my general cutoff is 1 month before the start of archery season. And again, I'm looking at it like, now I do notice that over the years, I will have, on average 1 to 3 mature bucks that seem to hang around here in the summertime sparingly. But then I'll have 8 to 10, 7 to 10, 6 to 10, up to 12. This depends on the year, that are around here in the fall. So I'm looking at like the mature bucks that I'm hunting just aren't going to be there in August and September, and they shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. But I'm really that 1 month cutoff, and even on a couple of the lands that I have that at least the landowners actually stay off the land too, as of right around 1 month before the season. So that's a deal I have worked out with them, and that seems to work really well. Again, that the bucks that I'm after aren't even there yet, for the most part.
I think that's a good point that you make. Is I think for some for folks listening to kind of pay attention to, is that if you set things up correctly, or if you're managing your habitat correctly, as you stated, the deer you want to be there in the fall won't quite be there yet. So you don't have to worry too much about boogering up your property or educating deer or whatever. I'm always, I'm always, I guess, a nervous Nancy when it comes to pressure, only because when you live in a place like Pennsylvania, you know what I mean, and then pressure is king to a degree. I think it takes so little around here to educate deer that I almost kind of try to cut it off. Like in June, I try to stay off the property as much as I possibly can. I'll go in to try to do some stealthy. Not saying that that's the right thing to do. That's just more of my own neuroses, I think, coming in, where I try to just do some very stealthy camera checks. And I even kind of have moved, and this is partially, in listening to you and talking with you to a degree, have even gone away from using my cameras as my intelligence for this year, as I more now use them for intelligence for years upcoming. So my camera data from this year is really going to help me inform how I'm going to hunt next year, so it actually helps keep me off the property, because I'm not actually going to use that data for that given year per se. I'm more doing it for the benefit of future hunts, which is
well. And I think there's ways you can do it even with the cameras to be non-invasive, and I don't like doubling up on camera activity access. So I'm only accessing my cameras when I go to tree stands, and it's on the adjacent. It's near the tree stand. It's on the way to the tree stand. I'll take a couple cards with me, but I'm not going out of my way to my cameras. I'm only getting them when I go to my tree stands. And really, kind of what you're talking about in the summer, I really like creating major shooting lanes in the springtime. And I do notice that bucks, especially in these high pressure states, they notice if trees have been cut down during the summer with full leaves. You have those dead leaves there. That is not a concern of any degree down in Iowa, Kansas, some of the low pressure states. And folks, we're talking if you live in a high pressure area, Kansas has 25,000 bow hunters. Iowa has 65,000 bow hunters. Michigan and Pennsylvania have 350, 400,000. Right. Wisconsin has low 300,000. So we're talking huge differences in hunting pressure. And so when I say high pressure states, I mean, they truly are high pressure states. And so I might put a tree stand up in the late summer where I don't have to cut any limbs. I might access trail cameras, but yeah, all the major cutting, any kind of tree planting, any kind of work in mock scrape installs. I'm really looking at that as we install a lot of mock scrapes around June, early July, and then keep those going just simply by roughing them up a little bit, maybe peeing them a little bit.
Right, having maybe a malted beverage or two before you step into the timber, so you make sure you're properly equipped to fulfill your mock scrape duties.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, with that, let's get the Jeff Sturgis, tips for assessing summer planning and habitat for the summer.
Well, first thing, I really like, especially clients and landowners, to take a good hard look at their number of deer they have and how their summer food sources are influencing the numbers they have to work with in the fall. If you need to build a herd, then summer food sources are great. And then if you need to reduce a herd, look at reducing your summer food sources or eliminating them altogether. And there's some good benefits to that, as other than just numbers as well. Also, great time to start your mock scrapes and really continue practicing your weed control that you've been practicing in the spring. And then also making sure that your tree stands are located and cut in and ready to go. And by the time you get into the end of the summer, it's just basically food plot planting time and checking the trail cameras.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. I can almost see velvet buck pictures if I try real hard.
I always see them. Yeah, I can't wait till that time of year. I go through hunting withdrawals in January, so I not too much out of the realm of imagination to see those starting to grow here in a couple of months.
That's right. Hey, thanks for coming on again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Clint.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank Jeff for joining us. Be sure, if you haven't yet, head over to whitetailhabitatsolutions.com and check out all of the content that Jeff has on his website. It is a place for deer nuts, deer nerds, and deer hunting addicts. So be sure to do that. Also, give him a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I want to give a big thanks to all of you for tuning in. And if you haven't yet, it would be super awesome if you were able to go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating if you are digging the podcast. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. It'll make sure that every time we have a new episode that it is delivered directly to your mobile devices and in your pocket for your listening pleasure during the week. Before we shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners that continue to help us make this podcast possible. Wicked Tree Gear, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Tecumani Seed, Glacier Coolers, Ramcat Broadheads, and Trophy Taker Rests. And until next time, we'll see y'all.
It takes a special knowing to colorful damaged heads, broken letters, rationalize yourself in numbers, but I